What's up guys? In today's video we're going to be talking about BRC20's and SBRC20's. Some of these things have been doing some astronomical gains and killing it in the markets. Some of them have gone up as much as 23,000% in just the past few days. And then there's some over the past few months that have also killed it and have done again like 23,000%, 20,000%. Ordi is one of those that literally took off from a couple pennies and it's already trading at $16, trading at a $345 million market cap. And these little guys, they're on Bitcoin. And the reason why I think Bitcoin DeFi is going to be one of those things that hits the crypto space as the next narrative is a little bit on how technology works. Let me go ahead and give you guys a thread to explain what I mean. If we go back in history, typically with innovation, it gets better and better and better and better. But eventually it reaches to a tipping point to where we're like, wait, we can keep innovating and innovating, but yet we still stay back in our old ways. Let me go ahead and give you an example of communication and the cell phone. So before the cell phones came out, we communicated through a thing called Morse code. This can be considered similar to texting. So just, like texting on your phone. Well, in this case, it would be making coordinated taps on a little device to communicate with people across the country or across the world. In crypto terms, this would be considered Bitcoin. Then we had the landline and payphones. This is much more inconvenient and sometimes slower, but it still gets the job done. It's more inconvenient than something like a cell phone. This would be considered Ethereum and DeFi. Ethereum and DeFi were great, they were awesome, but they were slow and they were very expensive. But they got the job done. Then came the clunky cell phone. This is much more convenient, but it still needed some work. These are like your alternate layer ones like Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, just to name a few. But then we had our flip phone moment. This is the smartphone. So this, what we consider in crypto, is going to be like the cross-chain tech with all the different bridges, interoperability, layer 2s, so many different DeFi protocols and innovation that has been released. Now, even with all this advancement in the cell phone and technology and being able to pick up the phone, call someone right across the world, anywhere we want, and say, hey, what's up, just talk, and even FaceTime, we still, even to this day, mostly still prefer text. Now, if you think about that, this can kind of be considered a form of Morse code with an advancement, which in turn, in my opinion, would relate to Bitcoin and BRC20's. We're going to get a little bit OG when we're talking about the BRC20's and the tech, but I will say it's pretty sauce on how this technology works on Bitcoin, but be forewarned. It is OG, it's slow, and you can't do a lot. But you could still trade altcoins, and it's really, really cool, and it's a pretty fun experience. And in my opinion, it's going to be the next narrative. And just by comparison, to show how much growth that we have, this is just a quick comparison. You guys have probably seen this bubble if you guys are researching BRC20's. You have 103 million BRC20 market cap. It's actually more. It's probably like 200 million. And then you have the ERC20 market cap, which is 152 billion. Like, with a B, billion. But anyways, that's just like how we're going to phrase this video. So let's go ahead and surf around and show you guys what's up. This is Unisat. So Unisat is basically a marketplace. It's similar to OpenSea that you can buy and sell these different BRC20's, and you can also buy and sell different ordinals. We are going to go into the ordinals because I'd rather just talk about the BRC20's because they're interesting to me. But Ordi was actually the very, very first BRC20 that was dropped on the chain. And as you can see here, these are the different dates and times that they were released. And you can see some of them have fully minted out or some of them are still in progress. You're probably looking at Doge and Sats and you're like, wait, why aren't they minted out yet? These are some of the OG early ones. Well, it has to do with the tokenomics. If you take a look into this, there was 100 million of these that you can mint. But if you take a look at the supply, it's rather inflated. What is that? Million, billion, trillion, gazillion, quadrillion? That's a lot of tokens. So yeah, you're going to have to be minting a bunch. And the gas fees on Bitcoin, they really don't allow for that. As you can see here right now, the gas fees are nuts and ham. Between 401 to 1498 sats per byte. So on average, it's actually about 506, 509, 419. We actually did just have a massive mint that went out for a BRC20. It was like yeah, so here it is. Vampix, it actually finally minted out. But it's just some dude on Twitter with like 400,000 followers. This thing ended up minting out in 7 hours, 6 hours. So yeah, that's pretty fast. People were paying a lot to do this, and the block times are starting to cool down a bit finally. But I mean, if you play around, take a look, you can actually see these gas fees are like astronomical. I mean, the median fee was about 16 bucks. That doesn't seem like a lot, but the total fees were almost amounting to the actual block reward currently on Bitcoin. And some of them actually surpassed it. So if you scroll through these and look at some of the extremely high ones, there were some blocks that actually surpassed the actual mining reward that Bitcoin gives, which is currently 6.25. So you can see here, right here, 6.089. What does this mean? Miners are basically earning double what they were earning. That means go check on the stock market. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not telling anyone to go buy Bitcoin miners. I was just kind of making a point like, dude, this is nuts and ham. These fees are crazy. There's a lot of people playing with these BRC20's. And you may think it's a lot at first, but actually it's a lot smaller than you think. If you take a look and go to the home page and look at some of these BRC20's, you can see here the amount of different holders. The token with the most holders is Ordi. It has a total of 7,418. Actually, I'm sorry. I would say BMPX is actually extremely close to passing it. It's already got 7,204. I don't know why it shows mint directly. Let me refresh this because this must be old when I was looking at it earlier today. So we'll go ahead and refresh, take a look. It is a little bit buggy. You guys are messing with like OG junk. But anyways, in order to purchase one of these or actually mint on a Unisat, you have to have 20 different points. So if you connect on this marketplace, obviously when you connect and your wallet's already done, you're okay. You get the 20 points. But if you don't have them, then you have to earn these points. And how you do this is all you simply do is you go to the BRC20's and you go to the ones that are in progress and you choose to mint some of these. Be careful minting some of these for like 97.4 because when you go to click to mint these and you get front run, you're actually just going to be wasting a bunch. You can choose how many you want to mint, and this allows you to toggle up to 24. But each of the additional, I guess you can call them inscriptions that you want to add on there, the BRC20's, it's going to cost more money. So if you go here and you go to next, I got 9 of them here. You can see as I click next, it'll go down. These are the gas fees, and it'll give the detailed amounts that I'm going to be paying. So I would be paying $205 for this mint because I'm minting 9 of them. Now, if I wanted to do one, it's definitely going to be less than that. It's going to be like 40 bucks or something like that, including gas fees. So if I choose to do one, which will give me 1 point, and also this could potentially give you an airdrop, so it's something to keep in mind. Actually, it's only like 22 bucks. Oh, yeah, what was I thinking? 220? That was 10? Yeah, whatever. But yeah, that's for 395 sats per byte, which the gas fees are so much more than they were a couple of days ago. I remember paying a couple gas fees, like tops, it was like 55 to 75, and I thought that was expensive. But yeah, no, gas is juiced right now. But that's it. You would get a point for that. And now what you can do is you can take a look at all these different BRC20's and you can pick and choose between them. You got Ordi, you got Meme, Punk. In my opinion, take a look at the ones that are OG and at least have a team behind them. For me, at least, what I'm looking at is Ordi, because of course it's the OG, first mover. Then you got meme. So what is meme? Well, meme is actually the very first meme coin that was deployed on Bitcoin. And in my opinion, that has a bit of staying power, and it also has a ton of holders. That's the same thing with Ordi. So here's some information on meme. This is like a little tiny thread, but basically meme was deployed on BRC20, 8.3. And the point is the first meme. And they actually did have a burn for some of the inscriptions that came. It's actually a bit less than the max supply of 99,999. But something interesting to keep in mind, that's on meme. It's basically first mover. Same thing with Ordi. But then you have another one that is also a first mover, and that is Zing. So Zing was basically the first BRC20 that was minted on a uncommon Satoshi. Now, what does that mean? Well, Satoshis actually have different rarities characterized to them. I know this is getting a little bit techie and goofy, but I like to go down this type of rabbit hole. So here are the different type of Satoshis that you have. The first is you have the uncommon. This is the first sat of each block. Then you have the Nakamoto, which is the sat mined by Satoshi Nakamoto. Then you have the first transaction. You basically can see all this data here. These are basically the different types and quality sats that you have. Now, the uncommon sats are the first sat of each and every block. So far, 176 inscriptions have been on uncommon sats. Zing was the very first one to do this. Now, rare sats are the first sat of each difficulty adjustment period. So far, there have been 0 inscriptions on rare sats. So once there is a rare sat one, that would probably be something to keep on the radar or at least keep in mind. Then you have the epic. These are the first sat of each halving in each epoch. So far, there have been 0 inscriptions on this. And then the vintage you have are on the first 1,000 Bitcoin blocks, which is very rare. Now, to understand what this looks like, you got to take a look at the block space and take a look at their numbers. You can say here or see here, this is block 7888, 705. So in order to get the first 1,000, you got to go way back in order to get that. So that's the reason why having something like a vintage sat would be extremely valuable, or even having the epic, which are the first sat of each halving epoch. So the halving happens every single 4 years. So the very first block that happens after that halving happens, so let's say this block is a 6.25 Bitcoin reward, then the halving happens. This reward would be half of that. So this block, that would be the very first block, which would in this case be the epic sat. So that's where you can get some of the epic sats. And then you have the rare sats. These are for each difficulty adjustment periods. So as more miners come on board or as more miners leave, the difficulty adjustment of the Bitcoin algorithm change. So the very first sats on that adjustment period are going to be the ones that have more rarity. And then of course you have the uncommon sats. This is basically the very first sat of each block. So each block that comes across on Bitcoin's blockchain, you have the uncommon sat, which is the very first one. And then you just have regular sats, which are just whatever they are. They're just in that block. So I go all to that to say is Zing, X-I-N-G, is basically the very first BRC20 minted on a uncommon sat. So it's valuable, and it was kind of around a little bit before the BRC20 started getting hyped, but something to keep in mind. And this kind of helps with understanding the different rarities of the tokens. So you can kind of save this screenshot if you want, but you got the common, any sat, uncommon, which is the first sat of each block. Yeah, this kind of helps. Now, I don't know if I already told you guys this earlier in the video, but I wouldn't doubt that Unisat is going to do some form of airdrop for being early adopters or early users. But it would probably be beneficial to at least mint some of these BRC20's to experiment with it, experience it, understand how it works. But those were the very first two. Now, there are some others that I do like. For example, Pepe, of course, it's a meme coin. I don't hold any, but I think it would be kind of interesting to see what happens with it. Because, of course, we saw the Pepe action on ETH. I believe the same would probably happen on the BRC20's. And then, of course, you have Pisa. I mean, Bitcoin, Pisa, come on, guys. Like, it's literally ingrained in Bitcoin. It's just a part of its history, and that's what you can look at the BRC20's for. And then you got BTSP, which is BT Swap or Bit Swap, whatever you want to call it, BT Swap. It's basically the first decentralized exchange on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you're going to be able to swap different BRC20's with other BRC20's, whereas before you had to use the Uniswap marketplace. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but that is one of the tokens for it. And then you also have Oshi. This is also considered a DeFi play for the BRC20's. And then one of my favorites that I really, really like is RSSC. I'm a numismaticist in real life. Like, I like to collect coins and whatnot. And RSSC is basically rare Satoshi society. So basically these guys are going out and collecting a bunch of the rare Satoshis. Like I just showed you, where you have the common, uncommon, you have the rare, you have the epic, you have the legendary, you have the mythic. Well, nobody's ever going to get the mythic because, I mean, that's in Satoshi's wallet. But anyways, these guys are going out there and basically trying to collect as many as they can. So I think it's kind of interesting to see what Rare Satoshi Society will bring. So I kind of like them as well. Yeah, there's a bunch of others on there, but just kind of like a quick history on BRC20's and a bit how they came about. This Twitter thread from Domo. This is basically the guy who launched the BRC20 experiment. It will be interesting to see how it plays out and see if it gets wings. But obviously, you can see Blockspace is going nuts and ham and doing pretty well. So obviously, it's doing something. Before we get into more details, there's a couple things I do want to talk about with these BRC20's. These are extremely volatile assets. In fact, I'm picking up the recording and adding to this, and this is literally a few hours later. Ordi is already up a 2x from the original recording in this video. I mean, these things are extremely volatile, so be careful if you are aping into these things. Wait for them to come into different buy prices that you're looking for, and be careful of FOMO. Now, when you're buying and selling these things, it's kind of weird how these work. You have to actually inscribe these. So this auction actually doesn't even exist. This is a fake not fake listing, but it's stuck in the mempool. The mempool is like completely locked up, and Unisat actually takes it off so there's not two people attacking the same one. So like, this is open. As you can see, it was allowing me to buy it with some Bitcoin. But for example, like if I want to check to make sure this guy actually owns this one, what I can do is, okay, I see he's got 100 Ordi for transfer. So I would click on his little BC1PX little majigger, and I go over to here. Now, when I'm looking at his wallet, I'm looking for the transferable amount. If it says available, like this right here, I can't buy any pups. Pups will not be bought because it's all in a available balance, but it's not transferable. So before you ever buy or sell any of these actual BRC20's, there needs to be a transaction made that allows you to transfer it. So let me show you an example of this with one of my BRC20's. So this is Swap, for example. This is the token that I have in my wallet. I want to inscribe this transfer. So it's going to say, hey, how much do you want to inscribe? It's loading my balance. Typically, since you're paying a gas fee, you can do all of them. I mean, it's up to you what you want to do, but the gas fees are nuts right now. Like, this is a $40 or $50 gas fee on Bitcoin, depending on the complexity of the data. So the more data it is, the more intense it's going to be. But this usually loads. It's a little bit slow on the video. It'll show the balance because I have an available balance of 3 million. Once that shows up, then you'll hit to inscribe the transfer. So you'll have this here. You hit next, and then you pay the fee. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not wanting to pay like $50. But yeah, so that's exactly how you'd inscribe the transfer. And now it's listed on, or now you can actually list it on the marketplace once it's done. And you can put your price, whatever you want to put on it. And after you do that, you can buy, sell, whatever. Now, whenever you buy one of these, you have to do that same exact process again. So even though you buy one of these and it shows up in your wallet, you still have to make that inscription. Every time you sell it, you still have to inscribe this transfer in order to allow other people to buy it. Just something to keep in mind. And again, guys, these are extremely volatile. They go up, they go down. They can move within like 70, 80% within a day. These are degen. Be careful messing around with these. I just think it's pretty interesting that they have BRC20's on Bitcoin. It's a slow OG mover thing, but some of these may be good. They may not be good. It's almost like looking at or getting a CryptoPunk in the early days of Ethereum, or if you bought one of the other NFTs that were completely useless and worth nothing, like Mooncats or something. They were all early, but not all of them got the value. So be careful. If you guys are wanting to look at some of the plays and picks that I'm looking at, you guys can jump in the Discord. I explain my theses behind them. I'm a lot more active there than I am on Twitter, mainly because, it's just easier to pop some information in Discord, and on Twitter you would have to send out tweet, and it's not worth it. I just like sharing with the community, and if you guys are up to date and you guys want that type of information, you can jump in there, and if you want to share other information, you can also do that in the Discord as well. Thanks, guys. There is also another chain that is on these are actually considered smart BRC20's. So this is basically the first smart contracts deployed on Bitcoin. So these guys deployed Uniswap on Bitcoin, and it's actually really, really cool. This is called the trustless computer, and actually when you're making swaps on this chain, you can kind of mine this trustless token. You can actually get it from a faucet as well, but basically when you're swapping in here, you can simply just swap like 0.01 Bitcoin to some dev. You can swap it to meme. You can swap it to Snow, BTC, just like a bunch of random different tokens, like you can see here on the marketplace. And some of these have been going nuts and ham. Some have a high market cap, some not so much. So some of them are like meme coins. Some of them are actually doing something like pizza. I mean, come on, it's Bitcoin pizza. I like them as a meme coin. They're kind of cool. Then you got Butt, which Butt is basically one of the first meme coins on Trustless Chain. Then you got Nakapepe, which is also another meme coin. You got Doge. I mean, come on, it's a meme coin. Then you got Shizo coin. This is actually pretty cool. The guy is super smart guy. But it's also a meme coin as well. But I mean, you have all these different coins on here, and this process is a little bit different to come on to the smart DeFi stage. In fact, if you wanted to come over here and swap, you actually have to go to the faucet first. You have to get some trustless chain token. So you can simply do this by tweeting it out. And once you tweet it, you get your first 1/10 of the trustless token, which is enough in order to make some swaps so you can buy some of the different tokens. So after you get your first TC token, then you're able to make your first swaps, and then they give a airdrop daily. This is actually going on for like the next few days or so. But basically with the trustless computer, you can see here you have the trustless wallet, which is basically a EVM. So it actually connects with your MetaMask, so it actually links right up to it. So you actually don't even have to mess with that. It's literally just a separate chain on there. And then you also have a Bitcoin wallet. So this Bitcoin wallet, you actually have to receive this on the trustless bridge. So there's a couple of steps involved in this one. But if you wanted to get Bitcoin in your wallet, or at least make some swaps, the Bitcoin is the gas. So you have two separate things. So you can see here you have the Bitcoin wallet, and then you have the trustless wallet. The trustless wallet, it's just going to be linked onto your MetaMask. It's a separate chain on there. So just like you would add the chain like Avalanche, Polygon, etc., it's the same thing with trustless chain. But in order to make swaps on the DEX, you have to have Bitcoin as gas. So all the tokens that you see listed here, these are all going to be in your MetaMask wallet. However, you have to have Bitcoin as gas in order to make the transaction. So the very first transaction you're going to be making is on your MetaMask. You will hit confirm, and then you will have to come back to this page, and then you'll have to click to process the transaction. So once it clears through on your MetaMask, then it will literally show up here as a transaction, and then you will have to click process, and then you will process the Bitcoin payment. The Bitcoin is basically what's going to be sending it on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's basically just a DeFi chain that is built on Bitcoin. So it's Uniswap on Bitcoin. It's pretty cool. You can actually get some artifacts, tokens, NFTs. It's like its own little island that's on Bitcoin, and it settles back on the chain. You can kind of look at it like a side chain or a layer 2. But anyways, something interesting to play around with. They even have artifacts, which is basically a place where you can upload some illiquid JPEGs, and you can basically pay some Bitcoin in order to get them launched on there. So yeah, they got a bunch of artifacts. People are putting stuff on there. They got artifact 157. Anyone can put it on here, just depending on how much you want to pay. But yeah, you can throw some stuff on there. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We are getting a bit long, but that's the SBRC20's and BRC20's. If you guys want to jump in the Discord to see how I'm playing it, to see what tokens I'm looking at, and to see how to capitalize on this, you guys can join. The links in the description below. And tell me what you guys think of SBRC20's and BRC20's. Proverbs chapter 9 verses 8. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. That's so true, man. I want to go ahead and say thanks to the sponsors, guys. Quinta.io is our sponsor. Today, they offer up to 50x leverage with deep liquidity, and they actually have a liquidity or the trading incentive, where as you are trading on there, you're actually going to be earning what? Oh yeah, you're going to be earning Quinta as well as some optimism rewards. So if you guys are trading on there, you're going to be earning a bunch of optimism as well as Quinta. So make sure you guys check that out. Details in the description below. Peace.